Alright guys, welcome to your next Android tutorial. I'm sorry for the long gap, I've been busy, haven't had time to do pretty much anything in the last week actually, or last 3 to 4 days. I've actually had time but couldn't get a quiet enough environment. Now my computer, you'll be able to hear it in the background. Anyway, actually I just need to get rid of all this. This is a app I'm currently working on. Alright, it's one of my old apps and I'm just reviving it. So this time we're actually going to do the content provider. Now I've made this video twice already and I've had recording problems, I've had all kinds of problems. So this is the content provider that I created when I was doing the last tutorial. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to make, I'll do it out again, but I'll be referring back to this. So I'm just going to transfer all this code pretty much over and explain what it all does to a new one. So to create our content provider, we're going to name it something. I'm just going to call it comments data provider, and then we're going to look up we're going to extend content provider, and there she is, done. Okay, so this is a content provider. Now what is a content provider essentially is probably what you're thinking now. Well, remember when we were doing databases and the DB helper? That wasn't the DB helper. What was it called? Oh, I need to get rid of that actually. But there was something in the thing here. Start up DVD while I'm here. Don't start up the SDK manager. Anyway, when we were discussing content providers, content provider is essentially a standardized interface for a bunch of database operations. So the operations are called the CRUD interface: to create, update, read and delete. I think that's what it stands for, but essentially the interface is insert, query, update and delete. Now what this does is it allows you to do the 4 things to every record. So we're going to actually create our content provider, and the reason the content provider is so good is because it's a standardized interface, and then if you have a content provider, a cursor loader will use it to load data into list views. You can access the contacts on your phone are stored as content providers. Now I haven't actually increased the text size for you guys. I must remember to do that, so I'll do it now. Edit, that'll be size 12, apply, there we go. So just increase the text size for you guys. So the first thing you need to do when you create a content provider is you need to create these 2 things here. So you need to create a private string, private static final string. Did I say fun? Yeah. And it's called AUTH, the authorization, and it's equal to, need our inverted commas in, it's a string variable, and it's equal to what the actual path is, or the package to your content provider is. So up here is our package, so com.twistedequations.android.test. Now what this actually is this is a unique identifier in your app. So if I want to refer to that app, with the system refers to that by this name, twisted equations.android.test, and then the content provider is called comments data provider. It's VIDER. Now I'm actually just going to, because I know this one works, I'm just going to copy and paste this string here just in case I've made a mistake somewhere, which happens quite a lot. No. Okay, so save that. So that's our authorization string. We're going to need a second one. Final. And this one is our URI. And this is a public variable. Actually, we need this to be public. URI, and this is going to be our comments URI, and that's spelled wrong. And because you know it's a global variable for the whole, it's a static variable for the whole application, we're going to be using this a lot. So this is, in order to create a URI, and I'll explain what a URI is at first, but first we just need to say URI.parse. Need to get rid of those. Parse, and then we've got our URI string. So it's content. Now, unfortunately, I need to just do some of my keyword layout. Okay, content colon dot dots or slash slash, and then it should be plus the authorization string plus that. Now I actually can't remember the rest of it. Ah yes, and they're forward slashes actually. Plus that, plus our database table. Dot table name. So, what is this exactly, or what are we doing here? Well, the authorization string is the path to your actual you know, the content provider itself. This authorization string, the reason I separated it out and not just put that string in here is because it is actually used later on. Now the comments URI is, a URI is essentially a URL. Think of it as a web address to the database in your application. Now you can actually make it so that content providers, like I can list, if I access your contacts and the app has asked for the permission to read your contacts, I can actually create lists of contacts, a list containing all the contacts on the device. So, and that would be the I think it's called the contacts data URI or something like that. But anyway, we're creating a private URI for our app. So a URI is a web address which points to content. So think of it like HTTP instead of HTTP. Like for web addresses, for web pages, we have content at this and then that table. So think of this as a web address in reverse, and this is the page you're going to. Table is the page you're going to on that address. So let's say you're going to theoatmeal.com/comics. This would be, you know, www.theoatmeal.com/comics. That's the way I think of it, and it's a unique identifier. It has to be unique, because every single one of these things here, like com.twistedequations.android.test, this identifier for your app, your package name, that package name has to be unique for every single app on the Play Store. What I always do is I go com.developername. Whatever the app is, and I think that works. So now we've done that. Now this final static int will come into it now in a minute. So we're going to say final. This is actually comment is used a little bit later on. Strictly we don't have to use this at all, or the URI matcher, but we're going to do it anyway. And then we need to set up some variables for your database. So we just need to create a called database and our DB helper. And then do the keyboard thing to import that. So that's that done. And bugger, I'm after double clicking. Okay, so we've done all this nonsense. Now, the thing is, okay, when you have a URI, that's one comments URI. Let's say we had multiple tables up here. Let's say we had a comments URI, we had a data URI, we had a videos URI, we had another URI, so we had 3 or 4 database tables. How do we access each one of them through this single interface? Well, we'd create a new URI with our DB helper table name on the end of it as well. Now we're not actually going to do that, but essentially it's in order to handle multiple URIs, you have to have some sort of URI matcher to put in. So that's what we're going to create. We're going to create a URI matcher. So we've got private, final, static. You can put any URI matcher. Like so. And we'll import URI matcher. Now, unfortunately, URI matcher, you have to initiate this, and because it is a static variable, we have to use a static thing, so how you do that is you just type it in like so, static, and this is a static block of code that's going to run on its own. Don't even ask. But anyway, now we need to create our URI matcher by saying URI matcher. Equals new URI matcher. And then we have to pass it a dot no match, and that initiates, and I need to make that capital U, and that initializes our URI matcher, ready to go. So now we need to add our URI to our URI matcher. Dot add URI. Remember the authority string we need? Authority. The path is essentially, I believe it's either the URI or the table. Yep, so this is the table. Can you imagine how hard it would be? Like, remember the DB helper class? If I bring it up now, we've all these public static final strings. They'd be very hard to, if we didn't have those, it'd be very hard to get it right each time. That's why those were created. And then our code is our comment. Actually change that to comments. And that's an int. So I'll explain what this does is, okay? Essentially a URI matcher just simply provides a match for a URI. You add your URIs to it, and then when you actually create, when you're going to, let's say, insert, you had multiple URIs and you wanted to insert data using that URI. How you would pass the data into the URI is with this. The URI comes in, okay, the content provider receives it and it goes, right, which table am I dealing with here? So it goes to URI matcher, which table is this? And then it returns a value in an int. It returns an integer value telling them which table it is. So this comments value, so number 1 will be returned if the URI matches this one here. Simple as that. So that's fair enough. So we've got all this finally set up. Now we need to get to our onCreate method. Now I don't know why it doesn't put that down there, but we're just going to cut that out. We're going to put it in up here because I like the onCreate method first, personally. Okay, onCreate. So in here is where we're going to create we're going to initialize our DB helper. Equals new DB helper. And we need our context, which is this. Boom. Damn it. Something's wrong. Where's our get context. There we go. So now we've created our DB helper and we're ready to go. Wabam. And this has to be changed to return true. So now that we've set up our content provider and we've got all our variables all set up, we're going to end the video here, and then in the next video we're going to go through the insert method.